one thing that I would tell therapists is like they need to work on grounding themselves within that room. Like, what is something that you can do to get your nervous system in check so that you can provide that safe space? Because if you're dysregulated and your nervous system is offline, then you're not going to be able to be the best you within that moment for your client. So take
Well, hi, Karen. Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for being part of our fifth annual Innovative Child Therapy Symposium. I'm big fans of both of you. I had a chance to work with you through consultation and see your beautiful work and your depth of knowledge. And I know you've done a lot of presentations, met you at the Association for Play Therapy Conference, and then we've been in trainings, and you become a pretty important part of my world. I even got to see Karen's bowl that she broke in Carmen's training, which is pretty cool. And I got to see both of you in action, and I'm impressed. So I'm excited about our conversation today. It actually is something that I wanted to see in person. You were doing a presentation on it, and I didn't get to go. So this was my way of being able to experience it. And having you share the knowledge with everyone here in the symposium, because this is one of your many strengths, holding space, which I think is a big part of who we are and what we do as therapists. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we get started, let me have you just kind of introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do.
Okay, thank you just so much for letting us be here. I'm really honored even just to be here. My name is Kelly Pullen, and I am the clinical supervisor at the Children's Advocacy Center in Collin County. I have worked there for 13 years, and I am an LPC-S and a RPT. I really enjoy working with sandtray and kids and EMDR. So really, I like integrating sandtray into EMDR with children.
Yeah, and you're really good at it too. One of your
Is
strengths. Okay, thank you, Kelly. And Karen.
and same as Kelly, Jackie, thank you so much for asking us to do this. We're really excited to do this. My name is Karen Ewing. I am one of the two senior clinical therapists at the Children's Advocacy Center of Collin County. And I'm an LPC and an RPT. Just like Kelly, I've had a lot of trainings and stuff. Jackie, we did our EMDR consults with you. And so both of us are in the process of becoming EMDR certified. And where Kelly's love is sand, and I'm learning more about it. I love using puppets, and I love bringing the kids' world and bring into puppets, and because sometimes kids can talk to a puppet easier than they can talk to a human being. So I love puppets. I have tons of puppets in my office. So
Oh, I love it. As you say that, I am just thinking about your incredible creativity too. Take all of these random materials and have the kid just be able to create a safe place or whatever it is that they're doing to work through stuff in therapy, and it's beautiful. Such like innovative ways. So the puppets, that's really neat. I love puppets too. It's not everybody's jam. I asked Marshall one time about puppets, and he's like he could see why people like them, but he doesn't want to stick his hand up in the puppets. And I was like, oh my God, that's so authentic. Like really truly own and be like, some people like puppets, but not everybody does. And I'm glad that you like puppets because it's good to have somebody liking puppets. Okay. Way too overboard with that. Okay, so holding space. That's a phrase. I think a lot of times we hear it, but I think sometimes people don't really understand the depth of it or even what it means. What is holding space and what's important to know about it, and how can we do it?
wants to go first? Kelly, you want to go?
I think for me, it's being in that place with the client and providing just um, the attunement and providing that genuineness and providing a room where it is as safe as possible for the kid because I can't provide a 100% safe place for a kid because I don't know coming in if that room is going to be safe for that kid. There could be something in that room that, unbeknownst to me, is not safe for that kid, but providing a room that is as safe as possible for that kid. So I think encompassing like that space, providing that space is making that room as safe and bringing myself there to be that container for that child while they're there.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm thinking about the videos that I watched of your work. You do that same thing. Like it's truly obvious that you are there with the person. You can kind of just even feel it on the screen. It feels so good.
And building on that, and I'm sure probably most people know, but some people may not know, is an advocacy center is we deal primarily with trauma and abuse. So traumatic grief, and then everything from neglect, sexual abuse, physical abuse, things like that with kids. So having that, we've got kids that we're seeing, and we see also the non-offending caregivers at our center. So having that space where, as Kelly was saying, they can feel safe and whatever that looks like. Now I say I like using puppets, and there was one little girl that I saw that we walked in the playroom and she thought the puppets were creepy. And so actually we saw her in an adult room. So because it was not, that didn't feel safe to her. So learning what that is and being that person that we can be to give them that space. But not only just for our clients, it's also for our coworkers and the work that we do of holding that space for all of us. So we are in Collin County, Texas, and just about a little over a year ago, there was the Allen outlet shootings,
Oh, yeah.
and that is in our backyard. And so we, as a center, we're part of the response team and helping out. And so it affected all of us, not only just that was, we knew people who were there. Some of our first responders that we work with were on scene and and then helping our community with that. So we were trying to do our work that week after, and yet we were having to hold that space for each other as well, so that we could heal. One of my love languages is, I don't know if this is a true love language, but it's baking. And I think I brought baked goods, at least two different items every single day that week after. And so it's whatever needs to be done to help that nervous system feel like they are safe, and all of that.
Oh my goodness. I bet it's amazing to work with you both. I feel it just even like knowing you and being able to meet on Zoom. The trauma that occurred at that time. Oh, I'd forgotten about that. And even without that, there's some big cases that I think maybe some of the hardest cases that I've heard through consultation. Now, with that said, in those spaces, sometimes it's hard to hold space. Like it's, the pain can show up in ways that impacts us. What are maybe some words of advice for people that struggle with like being present and attuned with some clients?
I think realizing that um, the big importance of like holding that space and creating that safety is if I, as the therapist, am not regulated, if my nervous system is not regulated, then my client can't be. So if you think of a baby who's crying and the parent is very anxious because the baby is crying, then the mom is not going to be able to soothe the baby. And the same is true for a therapist. If I have a client that's in the room with me and they're very dysregulated, and therefore I'm very dysregulated, then the same thing is going to be happening in the playroom. And so I'm not going to be able to help that client co-regulate, and they're also going to continue to be dysregulated. So, one thing that I would tell therapists is like they need to work on grounding themselves within that room. Like, what is something that you can do to get your nervous system in check so that you can provide that safe space? Because if you're dysregulated and your nervous system is offline, then you're not going to be able to be the best you within that moment for your client. So take that step back and do that.
Oh, I love that. Like really checking in. Oh, you know what that makes me think about, Kelly, is like that oxygen mask thing, like
Mhm.
a metaphor of put on your oxygen mask before you do others. It's not selfish. It's like actually required because you're not a help to anybody if you can't breathe. Oh, that's a good reminder. It's hard though. What were some of the things y'all did during that time for some kind of self-care amidst all that stress?
I think it was we checked in on each other an awful lot. If we're talking about with Alan, is we've got a really good team, and just the network that we work in, and the across the different like with law enforcement, CPS, and all of that. That's part of our team. Is I feel like we checked in each other with a lot more than we did on a normal basis. And the important thing with doing those check-ins is check in with intentionality, is not just, hey, how are you doing? And then you're like asking how you're doing, yet you're doing your notes, but it's giving that pause and what do you need right now? And paying attention to the body language. If somebody's like, yeah, I'm okay. And as therapists, we're going, you sure about that? Because I'm not sure I'm getting that feeling from you. But really helping that. But also for ourselves, I think it was um, asking for help. And I think as helpers, we're really, really good at helping others. And I think a lot of times we're not so good at asking help for ourselves. And so I think it was really being intentional about making sure what you were doing. Besides outside of the center, I know like my group of friends knew that obviously in the community. And I called one friend one day, and I was in the parking lot of a grocery store just crying. And she's like, what do you need? I'm like, tell me something funny. I need to know how bad your day was because I need to hear something that's different. And having that, and then also getting a break from things,
Yeah.
and having that other, um, seeing kids who are not hurt, seeing kids who are smiling and laughing. And then one thing that people ask, how do you do that? How do you work with trauma? How do you work with abuse? And my answer every time is I get to see the healing happen. And that's so cool. And watching these kids go through some things, and that you've been able to be that safe person for them if maybe no one else is, and watching them grow in their resiliency is just it's amazing, and that's what I think keeps me doing it. So
Oh, that's beautiful. So, just the rewards of the work itself, reaching
mhm.
out to other people and just not delving only with the trauma, expose yourself to like some happiness as well.
And I
Oh,
think even going more on that is some of us had some really, really dark cases within what happened. And I think it was important and still continues to be important for us to consult and talk about those cases with coworkers, but also being mindful about if I am going to talk about this case, let me check in with this other person and say, I need to consult about this case. This is the one it is. Are you in a place where I can talk about this?
oh,
Because the cases that we would have been talking about, and this is with all cases, but
Yeah.
particularly the Allen outlet cases that we do have are so heavy and have been so heavy for this past year that if there is a therapist who is struggling with other cases or their life, and we walk in and we start processing one of these cases, um, it is just, they're very heavy. So I think that was another thing that we were very intentional about is, yes, we know we need to consult on these cases, but who are the therapists that are okay to process these with? Making sure that our interns are not watching those videos because those are not the appropriate videos of them learning. So like those kind of things, to be really intentional on the amount of vicarious trauma that other people are going to be getting from it too.
Oh, that's beautifully said. The thought of just being mindful
Mhm.
of just even sharing this with another therapist could be too much.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. I love the way y'all care for each other there. It's beautiful. And you're so playful. I mean, right now we're talking about something really hard. In real life, it's like y'all are like hilarious. Well, I love that you care as much just to like be mindful of like if I talk to this person about this case, is it going to in any way affect them negatively? And
And that can be for anything. It doesn't have to be trauma. It could be, a kid with ADHD who's bouncing off the walls all the time. And if you're processing that with someone else, and maybe they have their own child is a ADHD bouncing off the walls all the time, and they keep getting the notes from the school and all of that. And they may not having to sort of be that person to process with, that might not be beneficial for them, and it may raise their levels of stress because everything you're talking about, they're going to be seeing that in their kid, and that may be um something, again, obviously not talking about clients without any with information, not sharing anything about particular clients, but I know there's processing groups and things out there, and so it's also just being mindful of what you're bringing, and then also in um, that same thought is if you're in some sort of processing group, which we being in a community setting, we can all the therapists we can process together, and I think that's one of the beauties of it. I'm also in private practice part time, and I don't have anybody in my private practice to process that with. So it's interesting with that. So if you're in some sort of setting, do you have, I know there's processing groups out there of where you don't bring any identifying information about your clients, but being able to do that and taking care of yourself as a therapist. Going back to like you're saying, the oxygen mask principle is one of I teach a parenting class here at the center and do a lot about co-regulation, but also, hey, your kids are watching you. And if you need to take a break, do that because that's modeling that behavior. And us as therapists need to remember that too.
oh, that's so good. That's so good. Just kind of reminding them, I guess, of the humanity there. When we're thinking about like holding space, it seems like that whole piece of like being mindful of what you, how you might trigger them, as you're saying, like ADHD kid. I'm thinking, yeah, that's like kind of me, even though I'm not technically a kid. I'm 50. I do sometimes bounce off the walls. I mean, maybe intentionally at this point, but the thought of the holding space is more than just kind of being there attuned. Sometimes it's like pausing and realize that this is too much for the person right now. Let me just be available, but not in any way expect them to do anything or be anything different. Oh, this is so good.
I think one thing just came to my mind when you were saying that, and like Kelly was saying, we are a teaching facility as well. So we have master's level intern students, and I will have one of the interns come in, and they're like, "I don't think I did anything today. like we played a game, but we didn't process anything. I don't think I taught a coping skill. I didn't, I don't know if we talked about boundaries and things like that. And I said, were you there? Were you present with that child? Yeah. I said, did you have one-on-one interaction with that child who probably doesn't get that in a classroom of 30 kids and, stress going on at home and all of that? Well, yeah, like then you did therapy.
Oh, oh goodness, what I think you just described is the difference between being and doing, and
Mhm.
being is the most important thing. Wow. Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that you're sharing that with people that are just starting out, because that is something that I don't think comes intuitively, especially as a new therapist, is scary. But when you realize just kind of being that safe space, holding that space is the most important thing.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's one thing that every year or every semester when we have orientation is we share that with them and just talk about games of reciprocity, which is super, super simple to do. And it may seem like I'm not doing any therapy in there, but the connection that you're building with that client and the relationship that you're building with just playing those games of back and forth, you go, I go, whether it's a balloon back and forth or Jenga or Uno. I know Karen and I both have clients that we play Uno week after week after week. And it's like, am I doing anything? Yes, you're building that relationship and building that connection. And we know that relationship is the healing. Like that is the therapy. And so, yes, you're doing something. So really working with our interns to help them understand that. And even sometimes working with myself to understand that,
Mhm.
because I think sometimes I walk out of sessions and I'm like, did I really do anything? And I'm like, yes, I did. Like, I sat with that child and I was present. I was attuned to them. Yes, I did something.
it feeds that I matter, I'm worthy, I'm good enough.
Mhm.
Even if they're cheating in Uno. Does anyone ever cheat on Uno with y'all?
All the time.
I
I had a kid who made up their own rules of uh, I I had my hand of Uno and their way of picking when they had to pick a card was they flipped the whole deck and shuffled through it to find the card that they needed so that they won. Because this kid, knowing that in play therapy is, that we give the child is child led. He every time he would walk in, he'd say, "I'm the boss in this room." And I said, "That's right, you are." And that
yeah,
was one thing that he needed.
wow, that's beautiful. That like in this space you could be whatever you need, and that gives them the agency that he may not have in other areas.
Mhm.
So if you need to turn over all the Uno cards and pick out the one that works for you, you choose. Oh,
Now
that
I didn't get to choose from that deck.
yeah,
I got to
yeah.
he would hand
You got a different set of rules.
I got a lot of draw fours put on me, so that was lots of fun.
You know what we need to do next time we get together, like in person, is get some Uno cards.
Oh heck yeah.
Just bring them and then we play some Uno. That'd be fun. Okay, so we're almost out of time, but I just want to thank y'all for being here, sharing this with just all the people in the symposium. And it's always so wonderful to see y'all. I love y'all.
Love you too. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Bye bye.
Bye.